The Buffalo Bills travel to Indianapolis on Sunday to play the Colts. Indianapolis is currently installed as a 3-point favorite in this game on BETDAQ. The total has not yet been released. Indianapolis has been a popular public bet in Vegas this week. You know, a couple of weeks ago, I think the football world in general decided to buy into the Indianapolis Colts, probably during that Thursday night game in Jacksonville where they blew out the Jaguars. Listening to Mike Mayock in that game talk about Andrew Luck, going on and on about how he's, already one of the best 6 or 7 quarterbacks in the league. And if you remember, he threw an interception, then went and made a tackle on that interception. And Mike Mayock, after the play, was talking about Luck's tackle. Oh, look at how he went after the guy like a defensive back. So hey, it's all positive about Andrew Luck right now, and as well it should be. This guy looks like he's everything that people made him out to be coming into the pros. And I think he probably will win Rookie of the Year. He probably deserves Rookie of the Year. However, let's back up now before we start calling this guy a top 10 quarterback or anything like that. If you've watched him play throughout the year, he turns the ball over. It's clear that he hasn't quite gotten the hang of NFL defenses yet, how to read NFL defenses. And so Andrew Luck, it's not a situation, he's not a Tom Brady or a Drew Brees or a Peyton Manning at this point. Not a guy that you can rely on week in and week out to sort of carry his offense and carry the team to victory. Now, he was looking a couple of weeks ago like he might be turning into that guy. The Colts won 4 straight games. That Jacksonville game was their 4th straight win, and I think a lot of people at that time, that was sort of when the opinion was at an all-time high about the Colts. Of course, they lost last week, Luck having a tough game against the New England Patriots. But you look at their 4 straight wins, look at them a little closer. I mean, they beat Cleveland, Tennessee, Miami, and Jacksonville, and only the Jacksonville game did they win by more than 6 points. At the time, the Miami win looked good, but since then, Miami has looked awful, so we don't know what to make of this team now. They don't look like a very good team. My point is, I'm not saying Indianapolis isn't a good team. I'm just saying they're not as good as their 6-4 record would indicate. Andrew Luck is the strength of that offense. They don't run the ball particularly well. They do not have a very good defense. They're especially soft against the run. We've seen them have real trouble this year against teams that can run the ball well. And the Buffalo Bills, their opponent this week, can run the ball well. Fred Jackson is back healthy for this game, but C.J. Spiller is getting the start. The Bills are rushing for 140 yards per game. That's good for 7th in the NFL. And the Bills can pass the ball a little bit too. Ryan Fitzpatrick is an underrated quarterback. Stevie Johnson, a legit number 1 wide receiver. And Buffalo, it's really the opposite of the Indianapolis Colts. Buffalo, they've lost 2 out of the last 3, but you look at their games a little closer. I'm not sure this team isn't a little better than their record would indicate. Now, they beat the Dolphins in their last game. We talked about the Dolphins a minute ago. Don't know what to make of this team now, but the 2 games before then, on the road against Houston and New England, maybe the 2 best teams in the AFC, both of those games, the New England game, Buffalo, it came within 1 play. They lost by 6. They had a goal-to-go play from the 5-yard line with time running out. If Fitzpatrick had been able to throw a touchdown pass, the Bills would have won that game. The week before, on the road in Houston, they played very well, hung tough with the Texans throughout most of that game. I think Buffalo's a team on the rise. I really do. I know it's tough to say this about Buffalo. They've been so bad for so long. You almost see their uniforms and you expect them to be bad, but and they're not very good on defense, not good at all. 30th in the NFL in points allowed, but they're better in the secondary than they are in the front 7. And we mentioned, Indianapolis is a pass-first team, so I like this matchup for Buffalo. I think they're going to go in there and beat Indianapolis outright. Keep in mind, the Colts are 3-13 against the spread their last 16 games versus a team with a losing record. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean the Colts just play down to their competition? I'm not sure if that's what it means. Of course, if the Colts, their last 16 games versus a team with a losing record, they were probably either favored in those games or they weren't an underdog by very much. The spread, you would think, was a round pick at worst for most of those games, if you're facing teams with losing records. I think what that tells us, what that trend tells us is the Colts, they may be better than people think they are when they're facing a good team. In other words, they're good enough to cover some numbers against good teams and maybe occasionally beat a good team, even though they haven't beat very many good teams this season. The Green Bay Packers, a notable exception. They were way down at halftime in that game. I remind you, though, Green Bay was up 21-3 at half before the Colts came storming back. But, you see the Colts' record against losing teams. They're not quite as good. When they're facing anybody and the spread's around pick or the Colts are a favorite like they are this week, they just haven't been very good in that spot. They're not a good enough team to be favored and covered numbers. At least I don't think they are at this point. I do like Buffalo on Sunday to go in and pull the upset in Indianapolis. And if they do, boy, anything could happen then in the AFC wildcard picture because we know there are 2 wild cards right now. Pittsburgh and Indianapolis, both 4-loss teams, would be the wild cards. Cincinnati's sitting right there at 5-5, and a bunch of teams at 4-6. Teams that we've already written off in terms of playoffs. Teams like Buffalo, teams like the Jets, teams like the Miami Dolphins, teams like Tennessee. If Buffalo beats Indianapolis in this game, all those teams are right back in it, and you know what? I think it's going to happen.